The stock is down, but how low can it go? Is this the bottom? Or is there always more room to move? Is there always more room for the stock to continue falling? That's what we're going to talk about, because I am here to assure you it can always get worse. I'm Brian. Welcome to my Tesla weekend. So there are a bunch of things that could happen that could affect the stock price, for better or for worse, of course. But is this the bottom? I would argue, no, never. There's always room for more bad news, and we can discuss that. So what could make the stock go down? One big risk is that the macro could continue to deteriorate. Who knows, stocks all over the world might go down if something bad happens, like a war, or just any general force majeure outside of Tesla's control, outside of Elon's purview. That could make the whole market move down. That could make everything go quite badly. That's a real risk, and something that shouldn't be overstated. But I think there's a lot more. There's a lot more that's within Elon and Tesla's control, and those things could cause serious harm. But there are other things that could hurt the stock price. Confidence. Maybe you're deleting too many parts. Elon likes to say, if you're not deleting so many parts that you have to add some back in, you're not deleting enough. So what could you delete? Lumbar support for the passenger? That's something they did. People weren't super excited about that. Didn't really hurt the stock price. But what about forward-facing radar? That was not a popular decision. What about ultrasonic sensors that help you with smart summon and parking and all that? Well, we've got a fix for that coming eventually. Are you going to keep deleting parts until there's too many gone? You know, what else could they delete? I hear the best brakes are no brakes. I mean, if our electric motors can get us up to speed, surely they can get us back down from speed safely. Could you see Tesla removing the brakes? Or maybe not removing them entirely, but putting on something so cheap that people are desperately concerned about it? It's a concern. The other big possibility is he could tweet something stupid. Why would he do that? Because he has a history of doing that. Whether it's telling countries that they should just keep the land that they've stolen, like they have in the past. I don't know what that's about. Or like calling Garry Kasparov someone who hasn't stood up to Russia. Kind of weird, that one. Garry Kasparov, famously, not an idiot. Or, you know, he could just call a cave diver a pedo. That's something he's also done. But even with that aside, let's talk about Twitter more generally. It could distract his time. It could distract him from his mission of working on things like Tesla and SpaceX. But mostly Tesla, because that's what we're talking about today. And then you've got the matter of FSD. Yeah, full self-driving. That could push the stock downward. And not just in one way, but in a bunch of different ways. For example, if there's a death on FSD, that could cause real problems real quick, even if it's understandable, even if it's a situation that wasn't their fault, even if they were T-boned by a drunk going 100 miles an hour, it could absolutely negatively impact the stock. Then what about a lawsuit? Could there be a lawsuit? People who bought a month ago or a year ago, great, they haven't got it yet, that makes sense. But there's people who bought years ago who've driven their cars to death and still have not gotten any of their FSD benefits. And then the big one, a last one, I guess, would be if someone gets to market first with something that actually works. I think there's a low likelihood that would absolutely push down the stock price even further. So that is where we are with FSD.
You gonna help with the groceries?
No, I'm not helping with the groceries. I'm working. And that's just FSD. What if there's a massive recall of another variety? Something akin to, you know, the airbag scandals we've seen, or any other major systemic function. That could be billions right there. It could certainly hurt the stock. But let's talk outside of Tesla for a minute. What happens if an astronaut dies? What happens if there's one or more consecutive failures of Starship, or Starlink, or Falcon 9? Any of those could impact the stock. And I know SpaceX should not impact the stock, but when the first crewed mission rolled out in Tesla Model X's, it did bump the stock up. There could be cancellations of orders from rental car companies. What if the boring tunnel has a problem, a serious one? Or what if something goes badly with Twitter? Ah, yes, Twitter. What a disaster that is so far. Can of worms can have a purpose. It can be a good thing. But we'll get to that in a minute. First is another big risk. What about losing an entire factory? It could happen. Or an entire market, especially if it's an important one. How, you ask? How could you lose a whole factory or a whole market? Well, here we are. We're already back to Twitter. You see, there are governments out there who do not take kindly to bad things being said about them by strangers, even nobodies on the internet. Those governments don't take those things lightly. They like to control their image very, very precisely. There are other governments that don't take kindly to boosting literal Nazis. And I'm not saying Elon would boost literal Nazis, but in some country, singular, that can land you in quite a bit of trouble, even legally. See, Twitter can be better. It can be much better than it is today. There's no two ways about that. But that doesn't mean it's going to be a bastion of free speech. It just means it's under new management. But the problem being, no one puts Elon in a corner. And when you tell him he can't do something, sometimes he wants to do it. When you tell him he needs to back down, sometimes he won't. That can be very bad for shareholders. So I'm not saying the stock is going to go down. I'm saying, can it go down? Oh, yes. Yes, it has that ability. And I guess I should do a follow-up to this on all the ways Tesla can go up. But if you're watching Tesla content, you already know the ways it can go up. But we could do that just for fun. It'd be a lot more fun. But if the question is this the bottom? Is there room for it to go down? The answer is yes. So I want to know in the comments, what downside potentials did I miss? Did I forget? And you could say demand cliff, but that one's quite a bit silly. We could discuss it if you'd like. It's not a thing. It's been discussed well by others. What did I miss? What did I misunderstand? Leave me all your thoughts and wisdom in them comments below. A big thanks to my Patreons who always get early access bonus content, generally speaking an ad-free experience, help keep the channel running. It is super important. YouTube does not pay well. So, stay tuned, stay juicy. Can't wait to hear from you clever robots on the flippity flop. And here it is, guys. This is your time and a half overtime bonus. Thanks for hanging out. Chris says, every new model introduced by a manufacturer means engineering millions. List to a large design team with their endless sketches, clay models, renders, prototypes. After that comes the additional cost for different parts and maintaining stock of those parts. And when sales don't pick up by itself, they just spend millions in advertising to persuade consumers the new model is perfect for them. Compared to Tesla, who design one category killer, keep perfecting it while it's on the market, all new parts will still retrofit current cars, and Tesla doesn't even need advertising to sell them. Tesla spends money wisely and thus achieves better margins. So yeah, this is in response to an R&D complaint. Tesla does not spend enough on R&D. Look at how pathetic their R&D spend is. Guys, R&D research, that includes market research. That includes all the sketches that the legacy guys show to panel after panel of soccer moms and soccer dads and who knows who. That's all research. That's millions of dollars that doesn't actually go into the car. That's how you got the Homer. Do you really need to develop all the stamps and dies and all that for 30 cars? When what you really need is one really good car? So the R&D spend is not too low. They get maximum bang for the buck. They don't have to stockpile a cajillion parts. Just a handful, because the cars are all kind of the same, and there's a lot of overlap in the parts. And of course, the best part is no part. So that, I think, is pretty valuable. Thank you for the comment, Chris.